Welcome back to Klinga Games. Today there's not going to be a QBA video. Unfortunately, I like to post my videos Saturdays at 1. I will not be playing week 5 until later. So instead, I'm going to be posting the last of my Regi-trio teams. This week it's Regirock, or not this week, this time it's Regirock. I already did Regi-Steel and Regi-Ice. A lot of people say that Regirock is the best of the Regis. I got a lot of recommendations to change Regi-Steel to Regirock on my Hail team, which I decided to ignore. So today we're going to be using it. I made a different team. A lot more meta picks than I usually do, but I'm using them in different ways, I think. So I hope you guys enjoy the team. I enjoyed putting it together. I really like making these teams that are built around a sort of non-meta or different kind of Pokemon. So we'll go ahead and get into the videos, and I will be doing a post-commentary. Okay, so start of the first game, and we have a very strange team that we're facing with Cresselia, Farfetch'd, Glastrier, Landorus, Tapu Koko, and Torkoal. So it's a very interesting team. Sorry for the mini team preview here. I got this team up to Master Ball at the beginning of the month and just haven't played since then, since I didn't know if I'd be able to post this or not. So I was very unfamiliar with my own team. So I had to check what all the Pokemon had real quick. So I went ahead and led Thundurus because it's just amazing support. Pairing it up with Regirock, who is the main aspect of this team. It's who I built the team around, so I try to use it as much as possible, and it actually is pretty good. I think all the Regis are pretty good, actually, especially in a Dynamax format. But Regirock had its own unique set of tools. Not really unique. I'm using weakness policy on all of them, but it did really well. I really enjoyed it. So we'll go ahead and get into the video. Alright, so start of battle number 1 against, I don't know how to say that, so I'm really sorry about that. I will just be calling you the opponent. So, the opponent leads Glastrier and Cresselia, and I obviously lead Thundurus, Regirock. So, Glastrier can be a bit of a problem. Regirock actually is a winning matchup against it because obviously Rock is good against Ice, but Glastrier also has access to ground type moves, so it's not a for sure thing. And Glastrier is another user of weakness policy, kind of like Regirock. So you can see here I was very unsure whether I should target into the Glastrier or the Cresselia. I ended up targeting into the Cresselia. I thought maybe they could ally switch. Really, I wanted to target the Glastrier, but I know Cresselia runs Ally Switch a lot. So I went ahead and targeted the Cresselia spot. I figured, best case scenario, I get a huge hit on Glastrier and get my defense boost. Worst case scenario, I get a defense boost. So it seemed like a pretty win-win situation for me. And they went ahead and went with Helping Hand, which I guess I should expect on Cresselia. I haven't played a whole lot of them, so I'm not sure what they're running. Turns out some of them run Helping Hand. So I Brick Break myself to set up weakness policy on Regirock, and I go ahead and hit a max Steel Spike into the Cresselia, which does, I would say, about 40%, which was a lot of damage. If that had gone into the Glastrier, it probably could have taken it to around 25%, I would guess. And then they go ahead and hit the Icicle Crash onto Thundurus, who is very bulky on the physical side, so even though they did a Helping Hand, the defense boost and just the natural bulk of my Thundurus did a lot there to mitigate the damage. So I went ahead and tried to taunt the Cresselia. I figured that it may be Mental Herb, but I had to go ahead and try in case they set up Trick Room, because then Glastrier would be outspeeding us. Unfortunately it's Mental Herb, but fortunately it doesn't go for Trick Room, and it just knocks out the Thundurus with Moonblast. But Thundurus kind of did its job already. I mean, it can do more stuff, but it kind of did its job already, just setting up the weakness policy on Regirock, And here I went ahead and stress tested if the Glastrier is weakness policy, which fortunately it was not. So we got a pretty big hit through the Protect, and we set up the Sandstorm, which boosts Regirock's special defense by 1.5, which is unique to rock types. If you don't know, in Sandstorm, steel types, ground types, and rock types are not damaged by it, but only rock types get the special defense boost. So then I bring out my Landorus, and I learn that the Glastrier is carrying a White Herb, so that's good information to have. I knew it wasn't weakness policy, obviously, but that tells me that it's not Assault Vest, which is another popular item on it. I think Glastrier generally runs weakness policy, Assault Vest, Lumberry, or White Herb. So you kind of have to figure out which one it's going to run. Here I kind of debated what move I should use. I wanted the attack boost, but I wasn't sure if this would get the KO. I went ahead and decided to risk it. Got Landorus out of there with a U-turn. And then I went ahead and brought in my only Pokemon in the back, which is Togekiss. So that was a very easy decision to make. So I bring in the Togekiss, who is in the Love Ball, which I really enjoy having fairies in that ball. It's a shame that it's so rare. So then they went ahead and set up the Moonlight, which in Sandstorm only heals 25% instead of the 50% it normally does. Luckily, I was right on that Max Knuckle, and it knocks out Glastrier, so I get the attack boost on Regirock, and Glastrier gets out of the way. So that's a big turn for us. Cresselia doesn't really get a whole lot out of it. I think the U-turn did more than they healed, and we get Glastrier off the board. So we have a Regirock that's at +3 attack, +1 defense, and Sandstorm is up. So I felt pretty confident that whatever they brought in would not be able to threaten it. And Regirock has Clear Body, so their Landorus, even though Landorus is very strong and it gets Intimidate, I'm not too worried about it because of Regirock. So I went ahead and decided that I needed the attack drop on Landorus more than I needed to protect my Regirock. So I went ahead and switched out Togekiss into Landorus, and I did a Rock Slide on my opponent just to get pretty good damage on both slots. Intimidate goes off. Don't really care about the Cresselia's attack at all, but getting that Landorus to drop its attack is a big win. And especially because they max their Landorus this turn. So Landorus does run Superpower a lot, so it does have the ability to boost its own attack, but it starting at -1 in Dynamax is just a very good starting spot for us. So they went ahead and used a Helping Hand, which Cresselia really likes to do that, and Airstream into my Landorus, which unfortunately does not take that thanks to the Helping Hand and the crit. I don't know. I don't think it survives with without the crit. I think it's. I don't think that crit mattered. Is what I'm trying to say. I think it's a knockout either way because my Landorus does not have any defensive bulk. It has the Assault Vest, but on the physical defense side, it's not that great. So I went ahead and just did Dazzling Gleam and protected my Regirock here. I figured that's who they'd be targeting. Went ahead and protected. They did a very strange move here where they maxed Knuckled, which isn't that strange in itself, but they targeted the Togekiss. So I didn't switch in Togekiss or anything, so I don't know why they targeted into that slot. I don't know if Togekiss gets Ally Switch, but maybe they were expecting that. And then Cresselia does another Moonlight, but the Sandstorm is still up, so it does not get the health back that I think they hoped it would. And Dazzling Gleam does a pretty big chunk to both of them. And it does get a critical hit on Cresselia. So we're in a pretty good spot here, where I don't think either of my Pokemon are really threatened at all. But I went ahead and did Protect on Togekiss, expecting a Rock Fall to come my way. and I went ahead and just did another Rock Slide with Regirock. If I guessed wrong and they went into Regirock, this could have been pretty bad, but I guessed correctly. They do the Rock Fall, and Togekiss doesn't take a whole lot of damage through the Protect, so that's pretty positive there. And then they tried to Moonblast into Togekiss. They tried to get the knockout on it, but I did a pretty good job of protecting it there, and Regirock gets a pretty big KO there with Rock Slide. Unfortunately, the Sandstorm ends, but Landorus is obviously a physical attacker, so that doesn't matter. And then they bring out Tapu Koko. So I still don't know if that matters, because Tapu Koko can run physical or special. I think people majority run it special, just because it gets better special electric moves, and it sets up its own electric terrain. So what I did here was I just went ahead and double spread moved into their team. I figured best case scenario here is they don't target into the Togekiss and I get a double KO. Worst case scenario, I get big damage and one of my Pokemon gets knocked out. So they go for Earthquake and protect their Tapu Koko. Togekiss obviously isn't affected, and Regirock eats that up because of its amazing defense stat. So Dazzling Gleam gets a big hit on Landorus with the critical hit, and Rock Slide goes ahead and finishes it off, but obviously doesn't affect Tapu Koko because of the Protect. So now we're down to a 2v1 with Tapu Koko against Togekiss and Regirock. I went ahead and protected my Togekiss, expecting an electric move into it. So I expect them to try and make it a 1v1, and I went ahead and Iron Headed into Tapu Koko because it's 100% accurate and it's a neutral hit against Koko, as opposed to Drain Punch, which is not neutral. It's resisted. So Togekiss protects, and I guess correctly again. They go for the Thunderbolt into Togekiss, and Regirock gets big damage here with an Iron Head. So that puts me up in a really good position where now I can just spam Follow Me Iron Head, and they really don't have anything to beat that, but they go ahead and cancel the battle. So that's a pretty cool win for us. Got to show off Regirock and got to show off some of the supporting team. Alright, so battle number 2 against Zach. So Zach has Tornadus, Urshifu, Togekiss, Metagross, Landorus, and Spectrier. So what I'm expecting is their Metagross mode, which Metagross normally has a pretty good matchup against Regirock, but I have a pretty good strategy for how to beat it. So I lead Regirock, Thundurus, with Landorus and Moltres in the back. Alright, so start of the battle against Zach. What I expected them to bring was Tornadus, Metagross. That's usually what people lead when they're running Metagross against this team. But they did surprise me. They brought out Togekiss and Tornadus. So I went ahead and kept my lead of, obviously I kept my lead, of Regirock and Thundurus. So I went ahead and protected my Regirock turn 1. Normally you just see Tailwind, maybe Follow Me from Togekiss. So I wasn't totally sure, but you never know what the opponent's going to do, especially when you're facing two kind of passive Pokemon usually. And then I went ahead and taunted the Togekiss so that it could not do Follow Me shenanigans in the future. Sorry, my opponent apparently spent a long time preparing their move here, which is interesting. So I go ahead and protect the Regirock. Kind of expecting Dazzling Gleam here. And then they go ahead and set the Tailwind, which is expected. There's not a whole lot I could have done here to prevent Tailwind. My Thundurus doesn't have any speed EVs, and most Tornaduses do run them. So I knew I wasn't going to outspeed it with the taunt, so I went ahead and focused into the Togekiss, making sure it couldn't get any follow me shenanigans going. Because what's important here is that now that Togekiss can't do follow me, I am free to max my Regirock and Brick Break into it to proc my own weakness policy. Which I don't think anyone ever really sees coming. A lot of people run like spread moves proc weakness policy, but this is kind of a specific case where Tornadus is just a really good partner for Regirock normally. And so I just fit Brick Break onto its moveset to break screens, which are fairly common, and also to proc the weakness policy. So we get our big old rock boy up going, and what they do is first they taunt into the Thundurus, but we are done doing our status moves, and we go ahead and Brick Break into the Regirock and get its weakness policy going. So Regirock has a really good attack stat of 100. It's not Metagross level good, but it is a very good attack stat. And we go ahead and Steel Spike into the Metagross, which at +2, even though it's resisted, it does a lot of damage. I kind of expected the Togekiss to switch out there, but I went ahead and targeted into the slot anyway with Steel Spike because I wanted to get the defense boost, which is more important than getting an attack boost or Sandstorm up with this team against Metagross. When you're facing Metagross, you really want to get those defensive boosts as quick as you possibly can. So it actually worked out in our favor that they didn't lead their Metagross, because that lets us build up 2 defensive boosts, spoiler, before they can even proc their weakness policy. So they protect their Metagross, which is a smart move by them. I don't think they expected that that Steel Spike to do as much as it did. And then I go ahead and Electro Web, because I kind of expected, I expected Tornadus to stay in Brutal Swing, but it's always really good to lower the speed of whatever's next to Metagross. You're not going to be able to lower Metagross's stats, but if you weaken its support as much as you can, then that really helps your chances against it. Metagross can kind of sweep through teams on its own, but the support that it needs to do that is actually more specific than you'd think. Usually it's screens or Tailwind, and then a weakness policy procer. So if you can lower the speed of that weakness policy procer, or if you can break the screens, then Metagross isn't as threatening as people normally think it is. It's still very threatening, don't get me wrong, it's a very good Pokemon. But a lot of people will get focused in on the Metagross. How do I take the Metagross out right now? And that's not really the best strategy against Metagross. It's going to do damage. You're not going to be able to stop it from doing damage. So it's good to focus the team around it, because if you can make it a 2v1 or a 3v1 at the end of the game, Metagross still won't be able to do that. So Spectre does Bulldoze, which I really like using Spectre as support. I really like to see people do it. I actually faced this exact strategy in Draft League Week 1. If you want to see that video, it's here in the top right. And then, so they go ahead and Steel Spike into the Regirock, which I don't really care about them boosting their defense, because the Pokemon that I use to counter Metagross is a special attacker, which I think you can probably figure out which one it is by now. So I'll go ahead and Electro Web again, lower Spectre's speed some more. Spectre gets by because of its amazing special attack and speed, so if you can take that speed away, it's really not too threatening. So I was saying that you want to get the defense boost, but here Metagross is actually at a low enough HP that I kind of just wanted to go for damage on it, because my my Pokemon that I'm gonna bring in to take care of it, this is plenty HP for it to one-shot or finish it off. It's not a one-shot because it's already taken damage, but this will give it plenty of damage to take out Metagross. So then I kind of focus my efforts on Spectre, because even though we can take care of Metagross, Spectre is still a big threat. So I am kind of just, I Drain Punch into Metagross. I kind of just do the best move possible, because Regirock's going down here. There's not a whole lot I can do to prevent Regirock from fainting. So I went ahead and just anticipate a misplay, but obviously it's not going to come, and Regirock goes down. But I do get the Eerie Impulse off onto Spectrier, which is very, very important. Spectrier is an amazing special attacker, and it can be very tough to deal with Spectrier and Metagross side by side. But I've already kind of weakened its speed, and now its special attack is -2. So, like I was saying earlier, I've kind of reduced it so that Metagross is the only threat right now. So I go ahead and bring in my Moltres, which, if you guessed that that was my my counter to Metagross, then good job. But it's very, very good. I have choice specs on my Moltres, which gives it the strength to do about 70% to a max HP Metagross when it's maxed. But with the condition that's at now, it's definitely going to take it out. Which, this is why it was so important to lower Spectrier's speed, because now it's slow enough that Moltres is going to be faster than it. So even though they're at 4 Pokemon and we're at 3, we are at a pretty big advantage here. They have a threat in Metagross and a threat in Spectrier, but neither one is in a position right now to sweep my team. So they go ahead and switch out their Spectrier into Tornadus, but I'm using Electroweb and Fiery Wrath, which are both spread moves, and they both do a whole lot of damage. So I get a double KO here. So just like that, it flips from being 3 to 4 to being 2 to 3. So if you're playing this team, if you're going to use this team, Moltres is not on this team to be a max threat in Sweep Team's turn 1. Moltres is here to be a late game sweeper once you weaken their team and pick off their threats. So then they bring in Spectrier again, and they bring back out Togekiss, which is normally a pretty good Pokemon against Moltres, so I have to change that. So I switch Moltres out into Landorus, and I go ahead and eventually, switch Moltres out. Oh no, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. So I Fiery Wrath this turn, I'm sorry about that, and I Eerie Impulse the Spectrier. So Spectrier's special attack gets lowered, which makes it not a threat to Moltres. And they go ahead and Snarl, which is a pretty good move here in their position. It doesn't do like any damage at all because of the Eerie Impulse, but it lowers Moltres' special attack, which is very big for them. But because of the choice specs, Moltres still has the special attack to take out Togekiss. And then Togekiss flinches, so that is very, very big for us. But Moltres is locked into Fiery Wrath, which is not going to do a whole lot of damage to their Togekiss. So I go ahead and switch out, and I eventually taunt the Togekiss. This will prevent Follow Me, which right now is not a real thing, so it prevents Protect right now. So I go ahead and bring in the Landorus, get that crucial attack drop on Togekiss, and I get the taunt. So now Togekiss cannot protect, and it's facing a 3v1. But it does have Dazzling Gleam and a raised crit chance, so it's still not exactly a non-factor. It's just not in the greatest position. So I go ahead and fly here, and I Electroweb into Togekiss. So Fly gets Landorus out of the way, so at best Togekiss can get 1 KO here. And then the Electroweb, Togekiss isn't faster than Landorus or Moltres, but it's always helpful to lower the speed, especially when you have a Pokemon that relies so heavily on getting crits like Moltres. So it's always good to get those speed drops. And it's a super effective move, so there's also that. So then I go ahead and bring in my Moltres. And right now I'm just using the optimal plays. So I Air Slash and I fly with Landorus, which I get super unlucky this turn. I miss Fly, and Air Slash. So that's a little frustrating, but both my Pokemon are pretty bulky on the special side. Landorus has the Assault Vest, and then Moltres has its base 125 special defense. So even though it got a free Dazzling Gleam off there, it's not enough to knock out either of my Pokemon. So I send Landorus back up to the sky, which it is still waiting to come down because Moltres gets a big Air Slash with its +1 and Choice Specs, able to take out the Togekiss, and that is game 2 win. So good game, Zach. Alright, time for the third and final battle of this video against Dylan, who has a Rotom Heat, an Urshifu, another Metagross, a Grimmsnarl, a Rillaboom, and a Nidoking. I really like Nidoking. Unfortunately, spoiler alert, is he doesn't bring it in this game, but it's really cool to see one on the ladder here. So we have another Metagross team, so we go ahead and we bring the same team: Thundurus, Regirock, Landorus, and wait for it. Wait for it. Moltres. And then Dylan was sitting there ready for me, so we're going to go ahead and get straight into it. If you do like this team, I'm going to post a rental code at the end, and I'm going to post it in the description. I know Series 9 is basically over, so I don't think anyone's going to rent it, but it's a pretty cool team if you want to check it out. So they go ahead and lead Grimmsnarl, Metagross, both shinies, very cool. And I lead Regirock, Thundurus, not shinies, equally as cool. So they do not have a redirector, so I'm going to go ahead and just max proc the weakness policy and go ahead and Steel Spike into the Grimmsnarl slot. So 3 games, 3 Regirock maxes pretty early. It's just a really good max option, honestly. It does really well into a lot of the meta Pokemon, and with the right support, it's a pretty good matchup against Metagross as well. So they go ahead and set up the Reflect, and we Brick Break into ourselves this turn, and proc that weakness policy. Get the special attack increase. They hit us with a big Meteor Mash. That's a lot of damage from an unmaxed Pokemon. But we get the big Steel Spike, which is a one-hit KO on Grimmsnarl, and we get the defense boost. So we're sitting in a pretty decent position here. Their Metagross is not procced, and we have a defense boost and an attack and special attack boost, which special attack we don't care about in the slightest, but it's always nice to note that kind of thing. So then they go ahead and bring in the Rillaboom, which is also shiny, very cool, which sets up the Grassy Surge. So what I go ahead and do here is I focus into the Metagross. I assume Metagross is not going to be protecting, so I go ahead and target it with the Brick Break. Get rid of that Reflect that he set up earlier, and I go ahead and get a second defense boost by focusing the Rillaboom with a Steel Spike. So he maxes his Metagross, which is very surprising. I didn't expect that in the slightest. I do kind of like the shiny Metagross, but honestly I think I prefer the normal one. I think the blue and silver looks better than the gray and gold. And Rillaboom goes ahead and protects, so I made the right decision targeting the Metagross with the Brick Break. Go ahead and shatter that. It wore off, as they say. And then they go ahead and Steel Spike into the Regirock, which thanks to our defense boost, we take pretty handily there. Then they raise their defense of both their Pokemon, and we hit Rillaboom with a Steel Spike, which does a disappointing amount of damage, but through Protect and with a defense boost, can't really complain about that. So then we get our second defense boost, which is one of the keys to beating Metagross, remember. And everybody gets healed. Except Thundurus. So we go ahead and we taunt the Metagross. Sorry. We taunt the Metagross. And then we go ahead and max guard with Regirock. So what we want to do here is we're taunting the Metagross so that it cannot protect in the future, because we have Metagross or Moltres G in the back, which is our answer for it. So we want to make sure when we bring in Moltres that they cannot protect. Makes our job a whole lot easier when we're trying to take it out at the end. So we've managed to stall it out so that they do not have a weakness policy proc, and they only have one max turn, and they have not taken a single KO yet. So we lose our max here with Regirock, but it did a really good job, and they're about to run out of their max as well. So give a quick look at their team. We go ahead and taunt the Rillaboom so it cannot protect as well. We want to make sure that we can spread our damage out and we're not at any kind of risk of wasting turns once we get the Pokemon we need in. So Rillaboom goes for the Grassy Glide into Regirock, which does not get the KO because of those defense boosts. And they have to devote a max Steel Spike just to take out the Regirock. So we force them to use 3 turns of max and 2 turns of Grassy Glide just to KO Regirock. So that is definitely a win when you're facing a Metagross team. Of course, everyone gets healed back up, but that doesn't really matter to us because we have got them in the position we need them to be in for Moltres to come in. So they do not have a speed boost, and they do not have a special defense boost. And Moltres should be able to outspeed both of these Pokemon, and Thundurus is still in good health as well. So we go ahead and Electro Web, just make sure Rillaboom won't outspeed, and hit him with a big Fiery Wrath here. With the Choice Specs, which does a very good amount of damage, which you'll see. Sorry, keep getting ahead of myself. I'm also not a huge fan of Rillaboom's shiny. I like the original design a whole lot better. So we get the Electro Web off. It does a pretty fair amount of damage to both those Pokemon. Lowers the speed. I don't think Moltres was in any risk of being outsped, but we get a nice big Fiery Wrath off on both, knocking out the Metagross and getting Rillaboom down to about 30% of its health. So we are sitting very pretty right now. We have got 3 Pokemon. Rillaboom knocks off the Choice Specs from Moltres, which actually ends up being a good thing for us. Fiery Wrath was just there to get rid of the Metagross, and we do have better options for moves that we can switch them up into. So they bring in Rotom Heat, which is a little bit scary, but we go ahead and we I'm trying to think of Eerie Impulse, sorry. We Eerie Impulse into the Rotom slot. And we go ahead and switch out the Moltres just to get a Intimidate on the Rillaboom. It's at low health, but it's nice to get that attack lowered just to give our Pokemon a little bit more longevity. So we bring in Landorus, get the Intimidate down, which is very crucial onto the Rotom Heat, of course. And we Eerie Impulse into the Rotom. So this is really big because their Rotom was their, I'm assuming is what they were hoping would be their end of game trump card. But we get big damage there taken against us on the Landorus. But we lower the Rotom's special attack and we have it waste a turn by targeting into the Landorus slot. So we go ahead and Eerie Impulse again, and we U-turn into the Rotom slot. unfortunately, the opponent is packing that move. That's horrible and I hate it. So we Eerie Impulse into the Rillaboom, get that crucial special attack drop on it. And we go ahead and U-turn into the Rotom slot. What's important here is that they do not go before us. That does not mean that means they did not Ally Switch and Grassy Glide again, which could have taken out Landorus if they would have done that move. But we get the Moltres in. Oh, I'm sorry, and they Grassy Train's up. That's why they did Grassy Glide. They just don't have priority on it anymore. I'm sorry about that. So at this point, we just go ahead and spread move because they showed they have Ally Switch. So we're just going to go ahead and attack both slots at the same time. They don't really threaten us at all anymore. They double protect, which I'm not sure what that was going to accomplish. There's no like effects on the field. There's no weather, so they didn't really have anything to get there. I guess they were just trying to scout out what I'm doing, but it obviously is not lowering our stats. It's not doing any damage to us. So the best thing they got there was seeing that I'm double attacking into both the Pokemon, and that Ally Switch is not going to help them a whole lot here. Which the Rotom's already at -2 special attack, and the Rillaboom's at -1 attack. So they don't really have a whole lot of options here. They clearly take a whole lot of time thinking about it, but at this point, the game's pretty much in the bag as long as I use the optimal play and don't target into protects and just keep doing spread moves, really. So get the Electric Web off. Does pretty good damage to both. Both resisted, so we'll say relatively good damage to both. And then we get the Fiery Wrath, which we do not have our choice specs anymore, but it is enough to knock out the Rillaboom, and we take the Rotom down to half. So they go ahead and get a Thunderbolt onto the Thundurus, which does about a quarter, I would say. Probably a little less than a quarter. So it's Rotom left. It can't Ally Switch to get out of it. So I just kind of spam Eerie Impulse here and Snarl with Moltres. It's not the fastest way to take down the opponent, but it's the safest. So it's going to take a couple more turns, but it gives us the stat reductions that we need. That Rotom is really not doing anything anymore. It does get the paralysis, which is unfortunate, but we get the Berserk boost, and Rotom is at about a fifth, I would say, a fifth health. So at this point, I'm safe to just attack with Brick Break. We get a very weird view of the opposing trainer there, and we get the Brick Break off. Thunderbolt does not take out Moltres, and Moltres is able to finish it with a Fiery Wrath. So really good game to my opponent. These games were actually all consecutive, so I went 3-0 after I started playing with this team again. So if you want to check it out for the last couple days, you can. I'm really sorry I didn't post it earlier. I didn't want to interrupt the QBA videos, but I'm glad I did get to post it. I'm glad I got to finish off my Regi-trio. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. Alright, so I'm going to go over the team for my final OG Regi team. So we'll go ahead and start with Balboa, the Regirock, holding weakness policy. Max HP, and then attack and special defense EVs. I'll be honest, I made this team a while back, so I don't remember exactly what that special defense was built to tank. But it gives it a lot more bulk than people expect. A lot of people run just max HP, max attack. And they try and enemies try and attack the Regirock's weaker special defense. But with this EV spread, it has pretty good special defense bulk, especially if you get Sandstorm up. And then we're running the Clear Body ability because, of course, we are. It's Regirock's best ability. We ran Protect, Rock Slide, Iron Head, and Drain Punch. Rock Slide is just an amazing stab move. Iron Head gives it max Steel Spike when it's maxed. and that increases its already amazing defense. And Drain Punch increases its attack when it's maxed, and when it's not maxed, it actually gives it a form of recovery. So you can keep Regirock around for the long game. I know I wasn't able to do that in my videos, but it gives Regirock a lot of staying power. The next Pokemon is Moltres in a Moon Ball, which I'm really happy about. With Choice Specs as the item. Max Special Attack, Max Speed with a Modest Nature. We ran Fiery Wrath, Air Slash, Snarl, and U-Turn. Fiery Wrath is able to one-hit KO a non-maxed Metagross, and is able to do, I believe, around 70% to a maxed Metagross. So, Metagross has a really good matchup against Regirock, but as you can see in some of my videos, if you keep Moltres in the back and then stall out their max, Moltres can take out the Metagross, and then usually the supporting Pokemon that Metagross runs with do not have the capability to take down Moltres very well. Air Slash is just another really good stab. If you max Moltres, which I don't recommend you do because I forgot to give you candies, it will increase its speed, but it's just another really good flinching chance that Moltres has, and it's good for grasses and bugs if you run into them. Snarl, if you don't think Moltres is going to have a sweeping chance, Snarl gives you a chance to lower the opponent's special attack, and it's very useful to keep Regirock around, especially if you're playing the long game with Drain Punch. Then you can lower their special attack, keep Regirock from being threatened on the special side, and really threaten the opponent. U-Turn is really just used if you need to get it out, but you don't want to be completely passive. It also is useful against other dark types, but obviously it'll be switching out, so you won't be able to spam it. The next Pokemon is Venusaur with a Wide Lens. Max Special Attack, Max Speed with a Timid Nature, and Chlorophyll's the ability. Venusaur is just there to counter other Sun teams, or not other Sun teams, but is there to counter Sun teams. Leaf Storm, Sludge Bomb, Weather Ball, and Sleep Powder. So Weather Ball in the sun against another Venusaur is a very, very good surprise move, and it's the tech that I have to beat other Sun teams that really threaten Regirock with their own Venusaur. Leaf Storm is just an amazingly powerful Vine Lash, and Sludge Bomb increases your own special attack. If you're not feeling too threatened, you can kind of go max Ooze for 2 turns and then kind of hit them with the Leaf Storm if that's the mode you're running. And then Sleep Powder is just a very, very disruptive move that you can run if you are not going to be maxing the Venusaur. Next up is Landicus the Landorus, which is a very stupid nickname, but I really like it, so I named my Landorus that. With the Assault Vest, Max Speed, Max Attack with a Jolly Nature, and Intimidate as the ability, obviously. Fly, Bulldoze, Superpower, and U-Turn. Fly, Superpower, U-Turn are kind of standard moves on Landorus, but the special move that I run on it is Bulldoze. Normally you'll see Earthquake, but Bulldoze still gives you about, I think it's a 110 max Quake if you max it, and you can use it to proc Regirock's weakness policy, so you don't always have to run the Thunderous mode that I did. You can actually lead Landorus Regirock and use Landorus to proc the weakness policy, which is very, I would say it's unique. I don't think I've seen other people run it, but you can catch a lot of people off guard with it. And then Landorus is also probably your second best max option, unless you're facing a Sun team, in which case Venusaur is the way to go. Next up is Zeus. This is the same Thunderous that I use in Draft League with Safety Goggles. Max Defense, Max HP with the Prankster ability, not nature. Bold Nature. Electroweb, Eerie Impulse, Taunt, and Brick Break. Electroweb is just a fantastic move. I love to use it as much as I can. Same could be said about Eerie Impulse, but Eerie Impulse is specifically there. You can pair Thunderous with Venusaur against Sun teams. If you hit Eerie Impulse against Venusaur, you can kind of ignore it, and then you can let Venusaur take care of the Torkoal. Taunt helps stop Sleep Powder, help stops Yawn and Trick Room, and Brick Break is there for 2 purposes. It procs Regirock's weakness policy, as you've seen me do, and it also breaks screens, which Grimmsnarl is all over the place, so it's very, very useful for that. And then the last Pokemon on the team is Togekiss with a Scope Lens. It's sort of a mix of support and Crit Kiss. We're running Modest Nature, but we're running all bulk EVs with the Super Luck ability. And we have Protect, Dazzling Gleam, Air Slash, and Follow Me. So if you're in a good position offensively and you don't think you need Togekiss to be an attacker, you can go with the Follow Me mode, like I did a little bit with Regirock. But if you are running into a spot where you don't think Landorus, Venusaur, or Regirock are going to be very good max options, Togekiss is actually a pretty solid max option. It's not going to one-shot things. It doesn't have the special attack EVs to do that, but it can be very useful setting up Misty Terrain, which will prevent burns on Regirock, and it can max Airstream to boost speed. So, like I said, it's kind of a mix between Crit Kiss and Support Togekiss, but it's a nice little Swiss Army knife that you can use to support your team however best you think it needs it. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I mentioned, next week will be week 5 between the Cincinnati Crowbats and the Arctivish Athletics, which is the currently ranked number 1 and number 2 teams. We're number 2, unfortunately, but I'm really excited for that matchup. I'll be playing it later today, and I'll be posting it next weekend. So I'll let you guys know how that turned out. If you guys do or do not like the voiceovers, let me know. I think I prefer them. I don't really like my commentary when I'm live. I feel like I have a lot of awkward pauses where I'm thinking and not talking, so I prefer to do the voiceovers. If you disagree, let me know. I can go back to doing live commentary. But that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, please subscribe and like the video if you want to see more. Thank you.